Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Soul Seeds, where my guest expert for today is Laurie. And Laurie is an author, an acupuncturist, and also a guide in sacred health. And the topic that we are going to talk about today is the soul seed of life force and how it's the foundation for having a sacred journey. So I would love to dive right in. So thank you, Laurie, for being here.
Oh, yes, my pleasure. Thank you.
And I would love to know, what is this soul seed of life force?
Yeah, good question. It's so every human being has it in their heart. It's a seed, and just like any seed that we would plant in a garden or expect to grow, it
Mhm.
has to be nourished. And a lot of times people think that if we think of
Mhm.
the lotus flower, we are it teaches us that it grows out of this dark, dank, dirty mud, that
Mhm.
you can hardly
Right.
even see into. But it's the light that kind of pulls it up into its blossom of beauty. And that's the same. It's a representation of a human being. So is a tree, for that matter, the acorn and the oak, right? The acorn
Mhm.
is such a small seed, but out of it, based on its nourishment, from the earth, and
Mhm.
then the light that draws it up from the cosmic life force, which is we're breathing in all the time. Oftentimes we think we're only breathing in oxygen, but it's a it's an array of cosmic life force that
Mhm.
actually science hasn't discovered everything yet. And the combination of those two things, as a human being, we're those are representations just like we are. So we're
Mhm.
being, from our heart, we have this seed. Some people call it like a spark of light,
Mhm.
and that's actually what gets, if we fan it, kind of like a bellows in a fire or anything that
Right.
kind of fuels the fire,
Mhm.
it can grow. And I've come to discover in my inner knowing is that that's my job as a human being, is to nourish and give as much light to that seed so that it can expand and grow
Mhm.
and make me healthy, make me artistic or creative. I'm also an artist. That didn't come until late in life, in working with this energy of life force.
Mhm.
All life force is creative. And let
Mhm.
me just back up and say, when we say life force, we're talking about the energy that is pervasive in the entire multiverse, right? Like
Mhm.
every particle and wave of life is this life force. And it's what our body is made of, and all of our organs, and everything we see around us right now. And some of that life force we see, and some of it we don't see. It depends on the frequency and how dense it is.
Mhm.
But there's life force that's beating our hearts right now, giving us words to have this conversation. And and we don't get taught to have a relationship with that energy, with our life force, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes when people have acupuncture, they feel things moving, and it's like, yes, how cool is that, that you can actually feel your life force? So it happens in yoga too. It's why I think those things are popular, because it's an unconscious desire and yearning for a
Mhm.
human being, a human heart, to have a relationship, a conscious, cultivated, curated relationship with our life force. So
Mhm.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And I would love to know, because that soul seed, where you say it's something that sparks you, that lights you up, that gives you that force, that almost expands that life force of you. Is that the same as finding your purpose?
Well, I think that, you know, uh, so yes, but it's more than that too.
Mhm.
Like, purpose is just one aspect
Right.
of our life force, right?
Mhm.
Also, our life force. So, about 20 years ago, this acronym for HEAL dropped in. HEAL, HEAL,
Mhm.
which is our divine design as a human being, and this is coded in every single one of our cells. We have 70 trillion cells. So this is a big, huge blueprint
Mhm.
or design of life, of a fully expressed life that we all get to foster if we choose. And
Mhm.
that is health, empowerment, or ease.
Mhm.
Also expression. E has a lot of considerations. Abundance. So whatever we need to thrive, whatever we require and desire to have a thriving, beautiful life. And
Mhm.
love. So that's the acronym. So and inside of that is naturally our purpose. Like,
Mhm.
honestly, if I had a gun to my head, that's so ridiculous to say it that way, but just to make the point, our purpose is to cultivate this life force.
Mhm.
That would be our purpose. Like if we did nothing else, we would be so on purpose. Everything else is like, what do they call that? The icing on the cake,
Hmm.
or the whip in the coffee. It's like we just decide we want to play on certain playgrounds, whether it's, to be a teacher or to be an attorney or a doctor, whatever, all the things, right?
Hmm.
That part matters less than who we are as a human being. And then we go out and we decide I want to play on that field.
Mm.
So,
And
but
how?
our purpose,
I'm
our
sorry.
purpose
Hmm.
is to foster this seed of light. Because
Right.
all life force is every single particle of life force is a particle of light. And
Mm.
here's another really yummy part. Light carries love.
Mm.
So it's impossible to separate those. It's like the yin, the yang, the alpha, the omega, the masculine, and feminine, right? So light carries love. And so when we draw in more of that into ourself consciously and purposely, and we cultivate this relationship with it. I know I sound like a broken record, but we need to hear our minds need to hear things over and over before it goes, oh, okay. Well, that's
Mm.
easy. I can imagine a waterfall of light flowing into the top of my head and filling my brain and my heart and then spilling into my entire body, activating the blueprint for wholeness in every cell of my being and then filling the field around me. That's our purpose.
Mm. And how can we tap into or connect to that part of ourselves, that seed, to have that sacred journey in life?
Yeah, that's a good question, Suzanne. All I can say is this is how I have done it and continue to do it and how I teach others to do it,
Hmm.
which is there was a day where I just put my hand in my heart and I just asked my heart, because that's the portal to this sacred, right? That's the portal to this vast field of intelligence and light that we all
Hmm.
get to be a part of. We can't not be a part of it. It's just whether we're aware of it or not.
Hmm.
We're an extension of this field, right?
Right.
So it, when I want to, before I say more about how do we do it, if I may, on a soul level, this is my view of this, is that we drop into this matrix on earth, and the matrix is pre-programmed with beliefs and trauma and suffering and, beliefs like I'm not enough and I don't deserve and I'm not worthy and all those kinds of things.
Hmm.
I'm wounded beyond repair. None of that is true.
Hmm.
But we knew on a soul level that we would find our way through the maze of those beliefs
Hmm.
and the trauma and the suffering to the gold or the cheese, if it's like a rat in a maze. And so in order to do that, our work is to regularly ask the light of life, the life force that is already in us.
Hmm.
We invite it. The way I do it is I invite it in through the top of my head as if it's a waterfall. I think it's easy for most of us to envision a waterfall. If you can't see a waterfall in your mind's eye, look one up on Google, right?
Hmm.
And just imagine that you're standing under it. And then that light is from the central core of creation. And
Hmm.
it's already coated with wholeness for every human being. And our job is to just accept it and receive it into our body. I
Hmm.
love to see it, receive it into my brain, into my heart. And that's like a double fountain. If we go into a park, there's a lot of parks that have like double waterfall, double tier, two-tier waterfall
Hmm.
fountains, things. And that's easy to see in our mind's eye. Now,
Hmm.
in the beginning, I didn't see the light. I do now. I see it everywhere. But I didn't give up on it because I knew that just my intention alone was enough. So, for any listener, your intention alone is enough to just call in this waterfall of light.
Hmm.
Imagine that it's filling your entire body, and then it will teach you
Hmm.
everything you need to know. It will teach you your next steps. It will teach you what to say or not say, do or not do. It will guide you. It's a system of wisdom, intelligence, and guidance
Hmm.
that is personal to you. It's
Right.
medicine. It's personal medicine to you.
Hmm.
I mean, there's so much that we have available to us in that light that it's almost staggering.
Mm. And how can we make that a daily practice?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I would love for your listeners to consider is to get the free gift that comes with our talk, because it's a 5-part mini class on exactly how to do this, right? So it's the power of grounding. We are
Hmm.
already rooted into Mother Earth, but we don't have we don't feel those roots. So
Hmm.
this is one of the parts, the power of grounding, the power of connecting into that central core and into that cosmic life force, the power of being embodied in our
Mm,
body where all that light is, the power of being present. None of this gets to happen without being present and in the present moment of now. And then the power of purpose, to your point
mm,
earlier.
yeah.
It's those 5 parts. It's like if anyone practices those day in and day out, and I'll tell you how I do it as my secret, you will have a foundation that is whole and good and right for you. And you'll have it for the rest of your life. And even people who are sort of further into their spiritual path, I've noticed that this foundational basic gets forgotten and kind of left behind or off to the side, and revisiting it and reestablishing it is really important. So everyone talks about having a morning routine or a meditation practice. I love those. I do that. I've done it for years. And it's not enough to wait till the next 24 hours to revisit what we're talking about, right? So find something, and I talk about this in the 5-part mini class. Find something that you can associate with all day long. I drink a lot of tea. I have to pee a lot. Every time I go to the bathroom, I'm re-engaging this
Mm,
light into my system. You can do it every time you take a sip of water or every time you text.
mm,
Something you do all day from the
right.
time you wake up till the time you go to bed, where that can be a quick, 10-second re-engagement of this energy for yourself.
Mm,
So there's less and less time between being aligned and centered and connected and falling off of that into our old patterns and our autopilot, which all of
mm,
us do all the
yeah.
time. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way it is. The only
Mm,
thing we can do is practice coming back.
yeah, rewire our brain to getting back
And it
to
rewires
normal.
our brain. Absolutely. It creates a completely new pathway that in, a reasonable amount of time, we are now walking that pathway in the old pathway of, autopilot, if you want to say, or the lower
Right.
human ego mind.
Right.
It's like growing over it's like an old country road where all the plants are growing over it.
Yeah, moss is growing over.
Yeah. And it still wants to seduce us to come that way, but this other pathway is also very well established.
Mm. It's like the ego is less loud and
Yes, the
yeah.
ego gets to be in the co-pilot seat, not
Mm.
the
In the
pilot
back
seat
seat.
or the back seat, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that part of ourselves. It
Mm.
just can't be the main show. It can't be the driver.
Yeah.
And we have to be the director. We are a human being with conscious free will. We have to direct that and
Mm.
and take the reins from the ego and give it to spirit.
And be aware that we actually have the power to do that.
Exactly. And we can only do that in the moment, in the
Mm.
present moment. And we can
Awesome.
only do it in connection with our higher self, because every time we try to do it with our ego self,
Mm. Right.
it's a trick.
Mm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then it still won't work because then still the ego is louder than
Exactly. We
yeah.
just kind of find ourselves back at square one, and then we say, oh, this doesn't work, and we're exhausted, and it's frustrating and disappointing, and we want to throw our hands up, even though it just wastes our time. Let's say it that
Mm.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, we have to get back to that core of ourselves, quiet the ego, and let our true self come out and take the pilot seat, like you said.
Exactly. And our true self is delicious.
Hmm.
She's beautiful. She's filled with ease.
Hmm.
And the joy that we're looking for, humans, the ego self wants to scratch and claw and find where happiness and joy is. But all of that is an external waste of time.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Laurie. It was a
Yeah.
joy to talk to you. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.